Hi, boys and girls. I hope you're ready for Chapter 2 of the Wise Enchanter. In Chapter 1, the children found the letter A. Remember that they're looking for all 26 symbols. I have a feeling that in Chapter 2, they might find the letter B. Maybe they gave us a little hint there in the picture. I hope you could see it. All right, Chapter 2. Boat building isn't easy, Sifo announced, and I think we'll need a boat for what we have to do, he sighed. You see, I'm sure it's going to be a long journey to find the castle of the Wise Enchanter, and if he lives on an island, we can only go by sea. You're right, said Rukmini, but we won't have to build a whole boat. My grandpa has a sailing boat, which just needs a little work. We can sand off the old paint and refinish it. There's a hole where a knot of wood fell out. We could seal that. We could mend the sail with sheets. Then we would have a beautiful big sailing boat. We could sail to the end of the world and find the Wise Enchanter. My grandpa's a sailor. I can ask him to teach us about boat building and sailing. We'll need our boat to be big and strong to hold all of us and all our things, Michael said. Is it a big boat? It'll need a tall sail to catch the wind and take us far across the sea. It's big, but not too big. We could sail it if we learn how. And so that very day the four friends went to ask Rukmini's grandfather about the boat. He was excited by what he heard and said he would be happy to take them where it lay beached near some sand dunes waiting to be fixed up. I've been waiting for someone to come and give this old friend a helping hand. If you can fix it, I'll teach you to sail it, he said, and his eyes shone with good humor. Rukmini's grandpa gave them sandpaper and taught them how to work with the wood. He gave them a jar of sticky roofing tar and taught them how to seal the cracks and stop the gaps. He gave them special blue and white paint and some brushes. They worked hard, stopping only to drink or eat a sandwich. What about this hole where the knot of wood fell out? Lauren asked. The lid of the tar jar is exactly the right size, Michael said, and pushed it into the hole where it fit snugly. Now we can seal that with tar, Sifo said, and did an excellent job fixing it. They tarred the gaps and sanded the old mast until it was smooth. They worked for days, from early in the morning as the sun came over the green treetops to just after the sun dipped orange into the silvery sea. People watched the busy children. Sometimes they stopped, but the children were so hard at work they barely noticed. Even though it was hot and the children were tired, they were kind to each other all the time. No one shouted and no one got upset when things didn't work just as they wanted them to. At last it was time to paint the boat and fix the sails. And when that was done and the boat was blue with fine white trim, they climbed into it, laughing. They hoisted the sails on the boat, which still sat proudly on the dune. That evening, as the sun went down, the children were tired but satisfied with the work they had done. It really looks like a boat now, said Lauren. We still have to learn to sail it, Sifo said. Tonight I'll ask my grandfather about sailing, and tomorrow he can show us, said Rukmini. The next morning the air was cool and fresh. The four friends waited excitedly by the boat for Rukmini's grandfather to arrive. It was the perfect day for learning how to sail. Such hard workers, her grandpa said, eyeing the careful paint job and the perfectly mended sails. Such good workers. Let us see if it sails. Rukmini, my dear, are you ready? I'm ready, Grandpa. I'm going to take it out a little way, then bring it back if everything's okay, and then you can come with me. Okay, Grandpa. The wind blew and buffeted the boat in the bay. It's a good boat, Rukmini's grandfather called out over the wind. Then he sailed back to the shore. Rukmini waded through the water to meet him. I'll take you, Rukmini. I'll show you all I can. Then you will be able to show your friends. Rukmini climbed into the boat with her grandpa's help. Michael and Lauren and Sifo waved, and Rukmini watched them until they were dots on the shore, disappeared in the distance. The big blue expanse of water spread out as far as the eye could see. Seagulls dipped and fished, and giant pelicans bobbed along the waves like royal gentlemen, inspecting what swam below the surface of the water with their keen, sharp eyes. "It may be a good boat," Rukmini called back, "but it rocks too much." The old man smiled. "Be brave, my young sailor. Even the best boat rocks. As long as it floats and sails, it's doing the right thing." A big gust filled the sails, and they billowed out full of air. "Oh, look how big and beautiful the sails are, Grandpa." "Yes, they're strong. Look how they catch the wind and how we can race across the waves." "You're a good sailor, Grandpa." "And you are too, Rukmini." "Not as good as you." "Not yet, but you will be. Look, now we're sailing with the wind. Next, I'll show you how to tack against the wind. You might need to do that someday." All day, Rukmini learned from her grandfather. The wind became a friend who tickled and played and pushed and pulled the boat along, and who whooshed and whined and even rattled sometimes. All the while the sea churned white behind them. Blue and green swells held the boat from both sides. Suddenly, a dark shadow swept over the water. Rukmini looked up to see if a cloud had crossed the sun, but the sky was clear and blue. "Grandpa, are there any sea monsters in the sea?" "I haven't seen one yet, my dear." "I thought I saw a huge green tail sweep across the water." "It was probably a giant piece of seaweed." "Probably. Or our own shadow." "Yes, it could have been." On the way back to the shore at the end of the day, Rukmini looked at the billowing sails and said, "Grandpa, look, the boat's big billowing sails are showing us something." "What is it?" "Oh, it's so exciting. It's as exciting as learning to sail. I must tell Sifo and Michael and Lauren. We will have to put it into our book." They could both see the beach now, and there was no sign of Sifo, Lauren, and Michael. They had all gone home once they'd seen Rukmini out into the bay. "What book?" Her grandpa looked at the sail and screwed up his eyes. He couldn't see what Rukmini could see, but she was so excited that he couldn't help feeling excited too. "Tell me what it is. I'd like to see it too." "Oh, Grandpa, the billowing sails are making a bee. Look." "So they are," he exclaimed. "I see it now. A big, ballooning, billowing, bouncing bee." Rukmini hugged her grandpa. "This is a good beginning. I'm going to be a sailor like you one day." "I think you will," her grandpa said. "Just listen to the wind. It will teach you what you need to know." In the evening, on her way home, Rukmini stopped at Lauren's house. She knocked at the door and Lauren opened it. "I need to speak to you for just a second," Rukmini said. "My grandfather's waiting for me." "Did you learn to sail?" Lauren asked excitedly. Yes, but I need to borrow the book. Do you have it?" "Yes, of course. Why, did you find something?" "I'll show you tomorrow." "Okay," Lauren said, "just a minute." She ran to get the book for Rukmini, who could smell that supper was ready at Lauren's house. She thought fondly of her own home and the smells of spicy dishes being cooked there for dinner. She'd forgotten all about the dark shadow beneath the waves. "Here," Lauren said, appearing at the door. "Remember to bring it tomorrow, and the supplies." "I'll remember. Thanks," she said, and hugged the book tightly. Next day, as the sun slowly melted the mists away, and Lauren and Sifo and Michael and Rukmini sat by their boat, Rukmini showed them the second page in the book. "Here's the boat with the billowing sails, And there's me. I don't think I've ever done something like this. Look, a bee. The billowing sails gave that to me, to us. It's beautiful, Lauren said. The sea almost looks enchanted. How did you draw that? I don't know, Rukmini grinned. It's just magic. That's 2 symbols, Michael said. 2 letters, A and B. Are we ready to sail to see what else we can find? I have to tell you something. I'm very sorry, but I had to promise Grandpa that we'd stay in the bay and not go any further, Rukmini said, until we are all good sailors. She sighed impatiently. We'll never get to the Wise Enchanter that way. The 4 friends thought for a moment. We could practice today, Lauren suggested. You could show us what you've learned. We could all get good at sailing, Saifo agreed. We won't have to stay in the bay forever. Okay, decided Michael. Let's all go and get good at sailing. I wanted to leave today, Rukmini sighed. I know what to do. A promise is a promise, Saifo said. We'll just practice today. Rukmini sighed again, but all her friends agreed, and so that day they all learned the ways of the sea. Michael learned to tame the wind. Saifo learned how to tackle the dancing breezes. Rukmini began to understand the dark and light currents that swept beneath the boat, and Lauren became an expert at riding across the waves. Okay, so here's the full picture of Rukmini in the boat and the bouncing, billowing sails of the boat that created the letter B. All right, I can't wait for chapter 3. I have a feeling they're going to find a C. Should we look at the picture first and have a hint? Here's what we'll find in chapter 3. Can you see a C? By the sea? I love this book, and I hope you love it as much as I do. We'll read chapter 3 again soon.